of fornication and disrespect, right? I hope that now I have your attention. What am I talking about? What's the connection? So this year, a couple of people, different people raised the following question. Right? What's the connection between two episodes where 24,000 people die? Right? The first or the second episode is the students of Rabbi Akiva. Right? We have two different sources, one in the Gemara and Yevamos, one in the Medrash, that Rabbi Akiva had either 12,000 pairs or 24,000 students, and they die because lo nagu kavod ze bezeh, they didn't treat each other with respect. Right? One thought they were better. They discredited. They weren't properly respectful in their dialogue with one another in their learning, etc. And therefore they are not worthy of being the generation's leaders. They perish. Rabbi Akiva has to start from scratch. There is another episode where 24,000 people die, and that is the episode in Pinchas, right, where the women of Midian come and they prostitute themselves before the Jewish people. The Jewish men succumb. Right, Pinchas has to take a spear and literally kill Zimri and Cosby. Right, Zimri is the prince of Shimon, and Cosby is the Midianite woman, and he kills them both. As a result, there's a plague, and 24,000 people die. Right, so that's an odd. It's just an odd coincidence, or maybe it's not a coincidence. The question was raised, what's the connection between those two incidents, right? Between the death of Rabbi Akiva's students, who didn't treat each other with respect, and the 24,000 people who died in a plague. They each die in a plague, which is another connection, as a result of the znus, the fornication of Bnei Yisrael, the men in Israel. So I saw one source, which is put it in the wild and crazy and ridiculous file, and I won't tell you who said it because that wouldn't be nice. But there is a suggestion based on a Ramah from Panau, an earlier source, that Rabbi Akiva sinning prince from the tribe of Shimon. And therefore, right, just as Zimri caused 24,000 people to die, Rabbi Akiva's students die in that same number because Zimri's soul is reborn into the body of Rabbi Akiva. I won't tell you who said it, right? Because that's a terrible thing to say. That is a terrible affront to Rabbi Akiva. Certainly is not the way that we understand why people might die. And the whole thing's a bit crazy. But where does that leave us, right? Now, it could be that there's no connection at all. I couldn't swear that there is one. But if there is a connection, I think that it is this. And that is one of two things. I could think of one of two possibilities, right? One is in both cases, right, what destroys the Jewish people is our internal issues. Right? Rabbi Akiva also lives at a time where we have terrible enemies from the outside. Rabbi Akiva's students are not, Rabbi Akiva is killed by the Romans. Rabbi Akiva's students are not killed by the Romans. They are killed because of an internal sin, of something they didn't do. Right? It is the exact same message that we learn from, right, from Pinchas, from the story with the Benos Midian. Bilam comes and he tries to curse the people, and he wants to take us down. But from the outside, they can't do it. It's only when we destroy ourselves, when we self-implode, when we sin, right? Be it fornication or disrespect, the common denominator there is we did it to ourselves. It is our internal conflict or our internal sin that brings about our destruction, whether it be from Hashem or from our enemies. So that is Possibility number one. Possibility number two, just as striking, is that maybe there is an equivalence between the two, right? That maybe, right? We say to ourselves, fornication is terrible. That's a terrible sin. Treating each other with disrespect, okay, it's not nice, it's not great, it's not whatever. But not so bad, right? It's not so terrible. And comes this episode to teach us their equivalent, right? Not treating others with respect, denigrating others, looking down upon others is more serious than we think. It is destructive and it is on par with fornication. That's how terrible it is. And the message for us, of course, right, while we know all areas of znus and fornication are usser, is to appreciate, right, how terrible it is to treat each other in a manner that is denigrating or disrespectful, and the obligation that we have to treat each other properly because we are all members of Klal Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom.